Every voice is different and every voice is needed. This is our voice. By connecting, we discover the best from and of each other. Inspire, challenge, transform, connecting and learning together. I ask the questions that you are thinking but not asking. This is Authentically Me. I am Nirvana Lange and I will be hosting and holding the space during a 3-day live Global Feminine Roundtable. Joining me over a 3-day wellness lifestyle conference is a selection of inspirational light workers, starseed healers, and truth seekers who are experts in their field on and off planet. This is an incredible space of consciousness, awakening, empowerment, unity, and love. We are here to share our transmission, together co-create, empower, appreciate, unify, and evolve for the collective shift in humanity at this time. And welcome, beautiful star sisters and star seeds and divine feminine, to the Authentically Me Global Divine Feminine Roundtable. Today is our last day, and I'm really honored and so grateful for all of you, especially getting up so early to join us today in this roundtable.
Thanks for having us. And help lift everyone true, going inward and healing our own energy fields while the mass consciousness also shifts. I think it's kind of all connected. So I know that they've been participating in that process for a very long time. So I don't know what you guys feel about that.
I think we're so surrounded, Araya. You know, I think that we all here have our off-planet connections. I deal predominantly with the Galactic Federation Council. And the thing that I can tell you is how very present they are. And that's not to say that they were somehow never present before, because they've always been a part of our journey, but they're working more one-on-one with us. They're working more one-on-one with people now. So as opposed to where they were busy before they were very much almost in a separate bubble, I would say. So you had humanity doing their thing over here, and then you had this bubble of support, but the bubble couldn't interact directly with humanity because humanity was never ready. Mm-hmm. Humanity was never at that place that they could say, I am equal. And that's a huge word. I am equal to you. I may not be intellectually equal. I'm certainly not superior, and I'm certainly not inferior. That's a big thing for humans to consider, that we're not inferior to these high dimensional beings. But there's enough of us willing to step into our equality to their multidimensionality that enabled their direct interaction with us. So it's no longer an us and them. It's no longer this separate bubble. The bubble has popped, it's melted, and it's merged, and it is very much part of everybody's everyday life. They're getting to have these connections with our off-planet family, as it was always meant to be. But because of the tendency of humanity to move into a state of worship, to move into this idea of putting them up on pedestals, which was never allowed, that was never, ever going to be part of the ascension story. So it's taken a very long time for us to be at this point of readiness. But nonetheless, that's what I'm finding at the moment. I'm finding humanity being in such a place of readiness where they're able to say, yes, I can interact with this off-planet energy. I can interact with my galactic family. That's huge. That's just enormous. For people who consider themselves to be little old human beings, that's a very, very big difference in terms of how we are relating to our off-planet support at the moment. So that's just my opener. What I would like to say is how each human being alive right now is affected by that level of galactic support that's coming in. For a lot of people, it might be happening in dream state. For some, it's happening in awakening state. But nonetheless, it is most certainly happening.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carrie. And just welcome, Laura and Magentas. And I am truly honored, and thank you for waking up at this hour. Very, very excited to have you joining us.
Thank you so much for creating this. It's so great to be here with all of you. Yeah, it's early here. Oh my God. All good.
Yeah, awesome. So we've just started opening the conversation around the off-planet stuff, the 3 days building up to closing today, and really just wanting to
address what are the influences on the planet, and are they malevolent or benevolent? Can always get tongue-tied with those two words, and of course a combination, and how that's affecting the cabal. And of course the light workers, the starseeds, that are trying to bring the light and to wake humanity up to what is really going on. So that's kind of what the conversation is at the moment. And we've had Araya and Kerry Kay, and I also just want to quickly run through the beautiful people here, which I didn't officially introduce. So Araya, I've asked her to do the contracts today and the clearing of the contracts, including the nanotechnology and all of that. And she will be doing that around 3:30 because time constraints on her side, give or take. And then Kerry Kay from South Africa, beautiful South African sister. And then Nina Starstrong, she couldn't join us yesterday. She was counting forward instead of backwards. Always good to go forwards, Nina. And and of course, Carol from the UK. And then Magenta, thank you so much for being able to be joining us here. And as well as Nadine, that she was on Friday, and she's also just here supporting and holding the space. So continuing on to that, let's go on to you, Nina, and your idea about, I'm just going to go along my screen, it's going to be easier, and your idea about the off-planet influences.
Yes, so I know when you invited me, I said that I would talk about sound frequency and harmonics. And so what I really see through a musical perspective is that the ascension is essentially raising the scale. We're going up the octaves of the ladder, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And on each area of the scale, we're getting closer and closer. I've been studying a lot about how our planet has been detuned. That's what they've shown me since I was a child. The planet has been turned down from love to separation, and everything has frequency. So what we're eating, what is detuning our pineal gland, what we're watching, the mainstream music is all tuned to separation. And then woven into that are all of the hidden messages, of course. But from the time that we're children, we are bombarded with commercials, TV shows, CIA woven hidden messages. So what I see is that a huge group of us came here from the future forward to the past in the timelines, and that we are starseeds, we are angelics, and there's tons of us on the planet. And so as we are remembering that in ourselves and rising in that rainbow DNA, which are those octaves of connection, we're getting closer and closer to the event, to that one-on-one connection with our Palladian brothers and sisters and galactics and Galactic Federation, because we understand that we're not worshiping them. We are just becoming more in oneness and connection and alignment with them. And music is a huge part of it. And opening the voice is so important because everyone can tune their own instrument and their own chakras by just toning their own sound out into the cosmic universe. It is an expression of your own unique frequency in sound, and sound commands energy. It's so powerful.
There we go. Beautiful. Thank you, Nina. That was beautiful. Before we go on to Carol, I also want to say that on a Facebook page, I saw this, and something, that Nina, that you had said, is that somebody said that lower cognitive ability is linked to non-compliance with social distancing guidelines during the coronavirus outbreak. What a ridiculous statement. Like, I'm happy to be mad and crazy and not, but this is how they are labeling people who are spreading the truth, that we have some cognitive mental disability and we are not able to toe the line in a way, which is ridiculous. So, Carol, would you like to share? You've got some amazing messages from the Palladians. If you would like to share with us.
Thank you, Nirvana. Yeah, So when I started to consciously channel the Palladians in 2009, this is before I began to have memories of having connected to them as a child. So I wasn't aware when I began channeling them consciously that I'd had connections to them as a child. One of the most important things they showed me is that all systems in place on Earth, the schools, the governments, the banks, the pharmaceutical companies, the food companies, all systems on Earth are run by negative ET energy. Now that's what I call them, but you could call them cabal or black cats or Illuminati or globalists, whatever you want to call them. They're all at the top level. All systems in place on Earth are run by negative ET energies. So we're in a time now where the ascension, with the ascension and the process of the ascension, everything is shifting back to its original blueprint. So everything is changing back to its original blueprint. The Earth is changing, and we are changing, we are evolving, and that is coinciding with Earth changes. So everything may look horrendous and devastating to normal people, but actually it's a beautiful birthing process. And the more it needs to be like this, it really needs to be like this, because the more painful it is, the purer the outcome, the better the outcome. So everything is getting shaken and turned upside down, and it's a huge clearing process. And we've been lied to on a mass scale about everything. And it starts really in schools. The school system is a huge programming to get the kids starting from a young age. So all systems in place need to collapse so that we can rebuild a new Earth, a new foundation. And one thing that the last couple of months, my own awareness has really increased, has really got, as recently was, I actually went off-world to, I believe it was Mars, and I was being shown that they are building rapidly, building areas and land and buildings. I'm not sure what they're building or why, but I do know that I was being shown that they're doing it rapidly. They're doing it, there's a sense of urgency on Mars that they need to get this quickly. And I don't know if they've done that or not completely already, because there was such a sense of urgency with them. I think that was in February, March, I had that experience.
Magenta, we'll go on to you. Nadine, I'll skip you for now and then go on to Laura, if that's all right with you. Magenta, if you would like to share, and welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Nina said about the music, about the toning, and using singing and chanting to be able to connect with that universal frequency and the Schumann resonance. I agree with everything Carol said. So I'm not sure what the overall topic is of our gathering today, as I've come along sort of last minute. But, you know, if it's what's going on the planet, it's everything, as I said, Nina has said and Carol has said. We are under a attempted planetary takeover. It is correct that all the systems within our reality are controlled and have been controlled for many years by a service to self construct. Call them negative aliens or Illuminati, whatever you want. I will add that within some of those systems, however, there has been a lot more movement from positively polarized beings and individuals. So it's not really that this planet is fully controlled in the way that it was. They've lost a lot of the control that they had. They do still have a lot of control. What I've been told is, using metaphor, and yet this metaphor is actually literal when it comes to cosmic realities. There is like a core structure that once that core structure is in place, the service to self individuals are able to perpetuate this control, this sort of silent control. So the majority of people on this planet think that they are free. They don't realize they are in a prison planet controlled system, and they're able to continue to do the same things, the same methods in order to move forward with this control. And that they have for many, many years had many, many plans in place. One of those plans is a New World Order takeover, a one world government, AI infiltration, everybody part of this sort of Borg matrix, if you will. And over the last few years, this core structure has been dismantled. Since around between 2012 and now, this core structure has been dismantled and broken. So they no longer have the core structure. They're now relying on backup generators. And as I said, these are metaphors. Backup generators to be able to continue to follow this dark plan and continue to control everyone. Now, the core structure is made up of many things, and it is a frequency, and it's out in the cosmos, and it comes from different planetary systems. But here on Earth, this would be positions of power that would be needed in order to hold that core structure. And one of the most powerful positions of power within that core structure is the American presidency. So with the election of Trump, that is the final sort of dismantling of that core structure. The backup generators do give them power. They do still have power. It's incorrect on a third dimensional level to say that the light has won. It is not true on a third dimensional level to say that. We are in a battle war scenario. However, when we look at timelines and we look at the fact that there is no time and that all is one, when we go to that unified place, that higher dimensional, fifth dimensional, infinite space, then absolutely we have won this. The positively polarized individuals and that structure have actually won this, meaning we're going forward into an ascension path. We are not moving into a new world order full takeover. This is an attempted planetary takeover that will move into a failed planetary takeover. It will not become a successful planetary takeover. But between now and the moment when this new Earth Gaia reality is fully created and we have the fifth dimension or fourth density here on this planet, we have an interim period. And what that is going to look like is this movement between the light and the dark, the light and the dark. So there'll be these positively polarized events occurring that's showing this release of this dark structure and more freedom. And then we're moving into yet another move regarding control, which is why we're seeing so many conflicting media reports left, right and center, why so many things are 1 minute appearing to be positive, 1 minute appearing to be negative. And at the same time, we have what the nine call the two world split, which is a reality of awake and aware individuals and a reality of those who are asleep and who follow the false narrative. So it's this interim period that is so important, because this is the time where we create that ascension timeline. So yes, from one perspective, it's done, it's created, but we don't sit back on our laurels. We actually create that within this interim period. And this is where we're going to see glimpses of the new Earth, Gaia. But we need to line up with it. And it might mean being in disguise sometimes. It might mean working with strategy. And at the same time, while all this is occurring on our actual global stage, we have the exact same thing happening within us. So everything within each one of us, which is why the spiritually aware individuals and the way showers are fairly clear of that, because they've been doing this work for a long, long time. But individuals who are just waking up to this or who are still asleep are going to be going through a very difficult time, because this is all happening within them. Everything that's been hidden is coming to light. There is a huge, great revealing, an apocalyptic revealing going on in families and in individuals and in systems. And at the same time, we have this positively polarized frequency on the planet, which goes back to what Nina said about the toning and the music and the love vibration. What that's actually doing is creating a flip into that positive match in all structures and systems. So when you have structures like companies, families, businesses, economic structures, anything built on greed and any negative, nefarious corruption isn't sustaining in this interim period. It's falling, it's crashing, it's completely reconstructing. And everything built on this new Earth Gaia frequency of love is sustaining and growing. And we are helping to create that.
We are back on this Global Feminine Roundtable and have more discussions. I'd like to ask Laura if she is there. Hi, Laura. So going on to what Magenta was saying is that now that we've got Trump that's been elected and is president and will be, now the new elections are coming on in November, and we can see there's a lot of stuff happening in America and of course also globally, a lot of people trying to discredit him. And why would you say are we supporting Trump as light workers and his mission that is obviously also, as we know, being guided by the galactic, influences?
I think it's just something that we've all just come to realize in our own ways. And we probably all have different thoughts about how we really relate into it on a personal level. I think it's pretty wild that the most intuitive people I know and the people that are doing like energy work and who have really been on the path and gone through the dark night of the soul just got these downloads or had very prophetic or important dreams that provided a lot of messages. That's kind of what happened to me. I'm not a very political person, so I know that's kind of like a weird thing to say. What stands out is this is freedom versus tyranny. It's not so much about Republican versus Democrat. And when you see that vast difference between how it's being run in order to bust the crimes against humanity, to see all this criticism and fake news just seek to trash him, it's very obvious that this person has taken on a very, very significant role in the here and now. And the amount of character judgments and smearing that has gone on, it almost gets ridiculous when you think about the lack of prioritizing what we should be focusing on. There's things coming out that people are still brushing off, like Wayfarers has just happened, and not everybody is quite on board with that, but it's not about trying to protect children and stop human trafficking. It's about, if you support that, it goes along with the political narrative. And so people are getting very confused between those that really want to protect humans, help stop these horrific things from happening, and being bent on something political. And because they're so caught up in fake news, they assume that the other side must be fake too. Because you can see a certain insecurity and anger in people, in their viewpoint. They're not looking objectively enough. They're not seeing the larger picture enough. And so it's become very clear that this administration supports the takedown of the deep state and the end to all this. But it's almost like a person, it's either let's buy into the false narratives and become played by the lower sort of mental body's response to a psychological operation or a event that takes place in the news in order to unroll the new world order agenda. It's the problem solution, problem reaction solution kind of thing. And it's like, you see people that are just really owned on a certain level in that way. And then this whole other movement that to me just is not politically bent. It's really looking to take down the cabal that's owned both sides of war, both sides of political parties. And there's something extraordinary about this that I just don't think we've seen in a really long time. But because those that are being duped by these false narratives can only see through the lens of what they're being told and fed, they're not going to really question anything. They're just going to allow themselves to believe what is being put out there. And so that's really scary, because that indoctrination is so thick or so heavy and so blocking to one's ability to really see through the third eye and really feel into it intuitively and be guided by it, because it's looking at the surface stuff, still kind of lost in the world of appearances. That's where we look at the race wars and different things that, somebody will just be just misunderstood based on like taking us into a very, very underdeveloped like way of being. It's a very underdeveloped way of being to just be steered by a narrative. And so I've had a lot of dreams. I've seen his astro chart. No, he's not a perfect person. No, it's not about putting him on a pedestal, but it's about allowing ourselves to recognize where is our energy best spent, and how can we possibly expect to get over the hump of these dark agendas if we don't put support into the places that can actually do something of value. And it requires really just like shutting everything down and getting to know the self much better, to feel into one's intuition, to feel into one's higher mind. Once a person really does that for themselves personally, which I feel all of you women have done, then the bullshit meter works in extraordinary ways. And so it's a very difficult thing to express without it becoming like, and this is what I think we're all trying to avoid is, trolls. We need to block people. It can become really nasty. But I find that those that support Trump and this administration don't get angry so much when there's opposition, only when there's attack, right? But the other side of it all, when there's any difference of opinion, there's a lot of belittling, there's a lot to support this. Whereas I notice with people that are more aligned with Q or Trump, if somebody doesn't agree with them, they're still really standing strong in the light in a lot of ways. And I've seen the majority. There are so many cover-ups, there's so many things that we don't hear about, there's so many amazing, positive developments that are taking place that is keeping those that are really like under the social engineering control to not give it the time of day, and not have that. I don't know how it's like people aren't seeing it, and it makes me concerned. It's like when we look at the larger picture of where we're all heading, if we don't break through the net, if we don't break through the mind control or social engineering, and if we don't really see things in the soul matrix or from a higher perspective, I mean, that's the most dangerous thing. And so I don't have an issue if people don't like Trump, but at the same time, when you look at the fact that it's going to be up to humans to stop human trafficking, it's going to be up to us to step up to the plate to be a part of this administration and not put it all on the administration through being active in what we share and what we inform people about. I mean, we're all being called to play a leadership role. We're all being called to be very responsible in how we share information, and all the proof is there. I mean, at this point, any denial is making a real clear choice to the universe, which timeline you're choosing to be on. And that doesn't mean that you have to support Trump to be on a positive timeline, but you certainly need to understand a little bit better what those who are supportive of this administration are really standing for. And remember, for us, it's not a political thing. It's really about helping in this timeline shift, helping to bridge us into the new paradigm energies, and joining forces in a positive and responsible way, so that we can do what's right for the planet and we can stop these crimes against humanity. I don't know if I answered that so well. It's still
Beautiful. I just am looking at the time, and I did ask Araya if she could please, and it's not for us at the time, but I really like to have Araya share the clearing of the contracts, and especially the clearing with the nanotechnology and all of that, and just to give us a short explanation of what it is about, and then going through the clearing of the contracts. And if I could ask if everybody could mute their videos and their mics. My internet is taking a little bit of strain just while we are, each speaker comes on, and that would just really help for this moment. Araya, if you would go ahead and explain the contracts, clearing of the contracts, and then take us through the process.
Sure. Please. Yeah. Thanks for having me. And thank you, ladies, who have already been through this with me, for coming on anyway today. And I'm really glad we're doing this. It kind of goes in alignment with some of the things that were shared today about that. This is really about us awakening and releasing mind control. And it's not about politics, but it ends up being affected by politics, because right now everything. And so as we release contracts, it helps. Before I start, I just wanted to share, there's been a few misunderstandings that have come up about contracts with people, like they've posted questions on the forum. And so I just wanted to address some of those. Now, I do want to say this is just from the lineage I was trained in about 20 years ago, studied with a wonderful teacher, Amora. And so this might not be what other people's lineages align with, but it's just one way. So I'm just going to share that. And so that the truth in terms of that particular lineage is that a lot of times people want to do general contract clearing. So they'll say, for example, all contracts I ever agreed to that are not serving me, let them be gone now. And so then when they come in a session, let's say with me, they'll go, well, why do I still have something? I already cleared all the contracts. I said, I'm going to clear them all, every single one that I've ever had. And so what I say to people that are confused about that is that it has to be sometimes specific. And so when we do general clearing, oh, just clear them all, we're not learning. So we have specific issues sometimes that we have to address. And so if you get really specific about the contracts, then you're starting to address the actual real issues that came up, whether it be past life, soul issues, familial contracts, and then the conscious and unconscious ones, and then the collective contracts. So it's really important, if anyone out there who wants to, totally clear as much as they can, to get really specific on not only what are the collective ones we're going to do today, but what are your individual ones. And some of them are ongoing, like things will come up as the planet is changing. New contracts will appear in the collective. And so that's why I was given some of these, because there were some loopholes and things that have come up in the collective. And that's why, the Palladians came in and helped me remote view and see some of these things. So, so let's get into it. All right. And a few new ones have come in since I connected on the last table that we did this on. So these are contracts, if anybody feels they want to clear them for the collective or for themselves. And if any of these you don't resonate with, then don't clear them. Don't, this is just general for anyone who feels like they might have some sort of agreement with this. So if we want to just kind of close our eyes and all ground in, however you ground. I usually tend to see a golden grounding cord going in the center of the earth to the Earth Star crystal. And then just getting your auric fields ready, pushing them out or pulling them in, keeping that beautiful sacred space around you with golden light or whatever color feels good to you. So breathing in, we cancel as a collective the permission for any of these corrupt groups to control our minds, emotional bodies, physical bodies through nanotechnology. And the nanotechnology are the microscopic particles that have been put in the air and in vaccines that basically would connect us to AI. Just to go over that again, it would connect us to artificial intelligence on the smart grid satellites around the planet. So we cancel any agreement for these energies to be able to be controlled in our fields. And in a little bit, we'll release those nanotechs through a Palladian healing technique. We cancel any contract to be slaves to these malevolent ETs, darker elite groups. We cancel any contracts that they have permission to mind control us at any time. And you could even visualize any of these as a contract and see yourself canceling them, like you imagine got a little stamp and you're canceling it, or just intend this to be cleared. These are just a few ways. We affirm we are sovereign due to soul, even if we have synthetic nanotech in our bodies. So even if we've breathed these in or had these injected from the 90s, we have the power through the etheric realm to dismantle these things. So we affirm we are sovereign. They cannot turn us into synthetic beings. That's one of the loopholes that I heard, that they could turn us into synthetic beings, and therefore we would no longer be sovereign. We would not be human anymore. We would be things. So we do not agree to that. We cancel the agreement with this dark group that we need. Now this one, I remember Magenta didn't agree with it. I'm just going to put it out there. We cancel that we need another calamity to awaken. And I thought about that afterwards, and I was thinking, well, different areas of the planet, we might have signed on for different things, but this is what resonated for what I heard and where I am. And we cancel, this is a new one that came in, we cancel the contract for them to silence us. I know I've heard a lot of Star Sisters coming on and saying that they've been attacked. I also have had certain attacks, electromagnetic and all kinds of weird things happening with the internet, and physical things going on. And so it's usually been when I've tried to post something that goes against the mainstream narrative. So this came in, we cancel any contract to be silenced. I know Laura talked about the bots and people arguing and trying to say we're wrong and all that kind of stuff. That's all part of the silencing agenda. We cancel and we ask for, we don't need to attract that into our field anymore, if possible. And if it comes in, may we stay neutral. And at this point, we also cancel with this dark group to allow ourselves to be tracked and vaccinated in any way. Through technology, this nanotechnology can hold some of the energy in the vaccination. It can also hold demonic energy, spiritual energies that are not ones we choose. So we cancel any allowing of these nanotechnologies imprint to be affected into our fields. And then the other new one that came in was the contract for us to be depopulated and removed from Earth. Some of the attacks that I've had have had that frequency. And so I thought, let me bring this one up too, in case anybody else has been dealing with stuff like that. We cancel any connection to the depopulation agenda. And so it is, and so be it. All right, so the next piece was just clearing of the nanotech. Now this is just a Palladian healing technique that was basically transferred over to the nanotechnology piece. This is something, like I said, been in the Palladian Lightwork system for a very long time, but it just got kind of fine-tuned towards how to clear it with nanotech. And it's just basically removing implants, devices, and the nanotech, that's what they are. They're implants, they're devices, and when we dismantle things from the etheric realm, ultimately they can become null and void in the physical realm. Even if we are still holding it physically, they can basically, it's like mind over matter. So, so here's the little process that I was taken through. So we summon Archangel Michael of the Light and the Palladian emissaries of light to be here with us. And then if you want, you could see, this is how we do in my lineage of Palladian healing, we see a golden screen. So you could see a golden screen in front of you, and this is going to be your healing screen. And you could see your whole body projected on there if you're a seer. Some people are more of a hearer or a feeler. That works too. Just feel your body or just sense is something, is there something there as we go through this. And we are working in our etheric body right now. So asking to see or feel or sense your etheric body. And then one way you can kind of, if you're a seer, you can kind of sense if something's there, is by throwing violet light. So violet's high vibration, so it'll land on things that aren't in alignment with your true energy. So you throw violet light at the body and ask it to land on any robotic, bug-like nanotechnology. Now, normally it would be much tinier than this, but we're just asking it to be zoomed in on and amplified. And this is anything that we've inhaled, eaten, drank, received in previous vaccines, and now I've even seen a nanotech mask being sold. Unbelievable. Okay, so wherever the purple lands, go ahead and go into your energy, and you can use your hands and pull out these bug-like nanotechnology. And what you're going to do is you're going to see a double tetrahedron appear. So it's two pyramids, one upright, one upside down, a Merkaba. And you're going to take these nanotechnology in your body. They may be in your lungs. I believe some of these nanotechs are trying to create and replicate coronavirus symptoms. Go ahead and see yourself putting them all in this Merkaba. Working in the etheric realm right now. So the visualization is reality. And then you can just see a tornado spinning that out of your field. You hand it to Archangel Michael. But you could just be asking for this to be done too. The Palladians are here to help. And then now we look for any wires, anything that was part of this machine and this mechanics. And you go ahead and ask the Palladians to hand you a erasure tool. And this is like a little, you just visualize it like a little childhood eraser. And go ahead and erase the wires all over the energy field, anywhere you thought you had nanotech in there. And then lastly, we ask the Palladians to bring in one of their tools called the Quantum Transfiguration Grid. It's just ultraviolet light that's crisscrossing everywhere. And you just see this grid of light all around you. And what it does is it repairs any damage that was done by the nanotechnology or any other implants or devices. You can use this for all that too. And just holding that grid all around. Let them anchor it. When you just hold it for a few seconds, and then the Palladians have enough of your consciousness to anchor it in. All right. And we thank all the beings for helping us with this. And this process is complete. Now you can move through this slower, but I was just kind of going boom, boom, boom through it just for the sake of this call. And we can, I think there's a printout of this on the web on one of the groups. We can always print out a copy if this went too fast for anybody. So thanks for letting me do this today, for allowing me to share this. I'm just the vehicle for whatever the guys want me to do. Whatever they want me to do, I try to show up and do it. So
that's beautiful. Yes, it's also on my interview with Paula Connor on my Authentically Me YouTube channel. And we were discussing that, the contracts. That's the first time I experienced it, is when I had the privilege to seeing all of your beautiful starseeds and starseed sisters gathering. And I was so touched by the gathering that I really wanted to connect and have that contracts shared. Great. Thank you very much, Araya.
We are back on the third part of the Global Feminine Roundtable. And
the Roundtable ladies, you're welcome to unmute your videos, Carol and Nina and Magenta and Laura. And Nadine, you're welcome as well. So I'd like to also, something that I heard yesterday about the vaccines, and we haven't touched in over the 3 days about the vaccines. And I saw something on social media that Kennedy Jr. has won a court case against CDC and the WHO against the vaccines not being safe. And that there was anything that in there that we could, that is healthy for us. And so they have won this court case against the vaccine. But where does that stand for us in regards to what they are trying to do in saying you can't fly, you can't do this, you can't, go and buy food unless you have the vaccine? How do you think that will be in putting that into place? Or are we still able to get away from that? Yes, Carol.
I just wanted to say something very quickly. I was doing a channeled writing with the Palladians, and they did say that they went through the whole everything that is going on at the moment. They went through everything that is being done to us by the negative agenda. And then the information kind of changed, and it went on to solutions and what will not be allowed. What will not be allowed is that, because we are getting assistance, not just by the Palladians, but also other star nations. The Palladians will not allow our children to be mandatory vaccinated. So I just wanted to say that, and yeah, I just wanted to add that, Nirvana. That was all. They won't allow our children to be mandatory vaccinated.
And it's the children that we are really, really needing to protect, as Laura said earlier on, with regards to the pedophilia and the exposure around that. I heard that in the Q movement, there was something that was recently released about Hillary saying, keep them stupid, keep them blind, and keep them starving. And it's this is how they think they're going to get away with it,
Well, food and water and chemtrails is all part of it, and they do use that to control and manipulate and keep us dumbed down. And I've heard it said that everything in the supermarkets is bad for us, has chemicals in it, or toxins, or poisons, or there's nothing that anything, the Palladians have told me, anything that is mass produced is not good for us. Anything. Whether it was originally good for us in the beginning, if it's mass produced, it's no longer good for us, because then it's about profit. Yeah. And when it's about profit, whether it's food or water or toothpaste or vaccines or pharmaceutical companies, whatever it is, if it's about profit, then they do not have our best interests at heart. So we need to come away from that. We need to come away from the old systems and start taking our own control back, start growing our own food, having our own water supply, taking our power back, and being responsible for our own food, our own water, and not giving our power away to the powers that be, because they do not care about us.
Yeah.
They don't have our best interests at heart. They are negative ET energy, as far as I'm concerned, and they don't give a shit. I'm sorry to use that language, but they don't care about us. So we need, and the population, the majority of people at the moment seem to be under a dream spell of believing that, oh, it's the government, or oh, it's a doctor, or oh, it's a lawyer, or oh, it's a authority, and they know better than me, because they absolutely don't. They don't. I saw a Facebook image the other day of a doctor wearing one of those plastic masks with the shields. And this is a doctor, and I was just thinking, my God, you're a doctor. What on earth are you doing? You've been trained in the medical profession, and yet you're like, I just thought, where is your brain? What are you doing?
It's like somebody has explained to me. Sorry, Carol. It's like the story. You've got the top few people who's got the actual information. And then it goes down the stories, and as it's going down the stories, you are getting less and less of the truth, and you're only being told that specific thing. So the doctors are not really taught about medicine or nutrition or anything like that. They don't get the full story as it's coming down. So as it gets down to the street sweepers, and they've hardly got any of the real truth of what the cabal and the dark agenda is really up to, because they don't have the full story. Okay, so Kerry, would you like to add in?
There, just you were asking about vaccines a few moments ago. So you could say that we're already in a situation where mandatory vaccines has already taken place for many people. Getting children into school, for example, they have had to, depending on the country, depending on the school, depending on the laws, they have had to, a lot of people already been in that position where they've almost had to succumb to the greater will of something or someone else. We know it's a negative alien agenda, yet there's already been mandatory vaccine. So there's the potential of a newer kind of mandatory vaccine on the horizon. And it's possible. It's kind of like saying, well, there's a 50-50 chance. It's available as an option, and equally it's available as something that we as humanity can rise up and overcome. But I think that there's a concern that I have around making the vaccine, or the fear of the vaccine, bigger than what it needs to be. And I'm not for a moment undermining it, and I'm not saying, don't worry about it, it's no big deal. We should take this very, very seriously. It's created as part of an incredibly nefarious agenda. There's nothing that we want in our bodies from vaccines, but should we be put in that position where a mandatory vaccine is upon us, I think it's absolutely imperative for humanity. I'm talking here about the potential corona vaccine, but I'm also talking about your child going off to a school, depending on the laws in your country, and they might have to have a vaccine. If you're in that position, my strongest suggestion to you is don't go into fear. The thing that I spoke about in the very beginning was, I said how there's more interaction on the planet right now from the galactics, because humanity has moved into new territory where we are just beginning to consider ourselves more equal, less inferior. And in that equality of self, we need to come into a reckoning that says, do you know what? That vaccine ultimately is energy, and 5G ultimately is energy. And I ultimately am an energetic superpower. And the possibility exists that I could learn to negate those incoming energies through my very presence. So I want to be clear, though, that I'm not saying that everybody's going to need to do this, and I'm not inviting in any 5G or any vaccines. I'm simply saying, if you are in that position where you are, for example, exposed to 5G, and you're saying that this is against my will, or you are having to put your child into a school that requires vaccines, if you're in those positions, remind yourself of who you are. None of that stuff is pleasant. We're in the process of watching that system crumble. And it is crumbling. All of the chaos is the crumbling. But whilst it crumbles, as Magenta said earlier, it's very real. We can't be naive and say, oh, the light has won and, everything's fine. Right now, it's still very present. Those malevolent forces are very, very much a part of our reality right now. So as much as that reality is crumbling, there's still enough of a semblance of it to have an effect on us. So again, the message is, remember what you are. You are a God being. And should you be in that position where you are exposed to a device or a frequency or whatever it might be, it could even be the negative intentions of your next door neighbor, If you are in that position, remember what you are. Remember who you are. Find everything in you that can overcome the fears and the judgments. Find everything in you that can come into a state of neutrality and stillness. Find those places, or reach for those who can help you find those places. Because when you do, that's when you can neutralize, through your neutrality, you can neutralize all of that incoming energy. It is within your capability to do. So whilst I am fully in favor of us as humanity standing up and saying, actually, I don't want 5G. Actually, I don't want vaccines. That's part of what we're doing. But just for this wobbly little bit in this interim phase between an old reality crumbling and a new reality being created, because that's really where we are. We are on that bridge right now between those two realities. And every now and then that bridge gets a little bit wobbly and a little bit wonky, and we've got to keep our balance. And part of that balance is remember what you are, remember who you are. And even if on a cognizant level you can say, but I don't feel equal to this task, I don't have that within me yet, that's okay. There's a part of you that does have that in you. There's a part of you that is a multidimensional superpower that actually does know. And if you can calm yourself enough and let that part of you into your beingness, or ask for the support of somebody who can do that for you, as in guide you to that neutrality in yourself, do that. So know that you're never going to be a victim here, no matter what happens. Whilst we recreate a new world, we're not victims of an old world.
Thank you, Kerry. Laura, I want to ask you, what is as an astrologist, and I've listened to a lot of your stuff, what have you were talking about the North Node and Gemini and the moon in Gemini. I think my moon is in Gemini and my sun is in Sagittarius and I'm in Aries. So it feels like I've got a little bit of a connection with what this transition is that's happening on the planet. But I'd like you, if you could explain what is up for us for the rest of this year in a sort of nutshell.
Well, just having the nodes now in the Gemini, Sagittarius polarity integration. I mean, that's the necessity right now, is that we integrate that polarity. We're moving towards the North Node though. So, but it doesn't mean we cancel out the South Node. It means that, we're kind of working with both, but the North Node is something that, we're here to work on, right? So we're here to work on throat chakra related stuff, how we communicate with each other. So this is the growth period for humanity. So it's interesting disturbing that we're all being masked and there's a lot of censoring, because that is our superpower right now as a humanity, is to use our words wisely, because that's where we bring in a frequency that can change our physical reality. And if we are mimicking mind control and social engineering, then we're sharing a frequency that, spreads viruses, mind viruses, just everything that is sort of keeping us stuck or conquered and divided. So the Sagittarian energy connects us with Jupiter. It helps us with expansion. And Jupiter being the ruler, being in these conjunctions with Pluto and Saturn, which represent this paradigm shift we're all going through, the Jupiter energy is even more amplified. So we're drawing upon the wisdom of previous lifetimes, because the South Node represents the past. We're drawing upon life experience, wisdom, and all these sort of things that we can begin to amplify through our throat chakra. And as we do that, the energies of Pluto, which is all about death, rebirth, alchemy, transformation, which has been very close to Saturn, and it's going to come back close to each other again, allows us to drop the old paradigm. Saturn has to do with the control systems and the history of Saturn, and how there's that Saturn moon matrix and the artificial component of our reality, and how we're dealing with junk DNA and just the artificial components. We're actually deprogramming. This is the year of deprogramming, and so it's going to take sharing information and staying really strong in our own personal authentic expression to knock down this dark agenda. Because once people realize that the ones that are orchestrating it are the ones behind human trafficking and all these horrific crimes against humanity, there's going to be really no way. And so it's up to us to utilize that throat chakra, to utilize voice. And I know you were talking, Nina, about the sound and music and sound healing and all that kind of stuff, because everything that connected to AI, and AI signals have to do with distortions, and those distortions and what they do to us, and how that actually is the programming that makes it very hard to transmute toxins and dark technologies. Yeah, so we can bring in the override frequency through our words and expression, and being authentic, doing the inner work to keep ourselves clear. And above the programming is everything, because if the dark technology was enough to mess with us, then they wouldn't bother with all the things that we see streaming through the media, all the indoctrination that we go through in school. We have to have given a certain amount of our power away for dark technologies to, really begin to assimilate us into AI. AI can be broken down and neutralized through the frequency of truth and love and higher dimensional energies that we can connect into, and how that relates to benevolent groups and councils that we're connected to. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, the Pluto Jupiter Saturn conjunction has been the most significant. So the transformational energies that presents is giving us a choice to either have that Pluto bring about the death of our freedom, or the death of the cabal and our relationship with these dark agendas, and where we might unconsciously be hooked into it. And most humans are on some level unconsciously hooked in, and it's a dependency system that wants to put us in survival and panic, so that it can tell us what to do and how to do it. So we're in a big deprogramming. Once we get to a certain place in the deprogramming, then we no longer have a relationship with the controlled, like where the technology is, and implants and the nanites in our food, water, and air, and the way that they're going to manipulate things through the AI, and how it can send out waves of desire and trigger sort of like events that are mimicking and trying to overthrow the natural biological cycles. It's up to us as humans to connect with the right forces in order to knock that down. And so it targets the personality matrix, and that's why there's so many arguments like that. So this is a big time of being able to deprogram, and there's going to be some significant aspects going on throughout the rest of the year. I would say December 21st, when we get into the solstice time. It's going to be when Jupiter Saturn aligns in Aquarius, and it's followed by Mars conjunct Eris and Mars square Pluto. So that's a really, really intense energy of anger, strife, conflict, but also a chance for us to direct our power in a very wise way. So it's either going to lead to more chaos, more war amongst us, where we get easily played and controlled, and we're just not in the right frame of mind to put the priority on taking down the crimes against humanity. I mean, and this is the theme throughout the rest of the year. What do we do in the face of conflict? Do we allow it to help us to be better people? Does it help us to grow? Does it help us to come together in harmony and cooperation? Or does it cause a greater breaking down of unity consciousness and divide and conquer to the point where, you know, these agendas just are basically thriving? I mean, like parasites thriving on its hosts, because it's creating the conditions for its own food source, to create a food source for itself. So as long as we're buying into, you know, what its attempts are to create, you know, food source and something to feed on and something to take advantage of and leverage for its own agenda, I mean, that's where the danger is. So we have an opportunity to say, wow, in the face of the conflicts and the wars and the battles that are being promoted, that we put our priorities where they should be, and we come together and we cooperate, and we take that powerful energy of like the Mars Pluto Eris, which is the goddess of strife and conflict, and we direct that incredible potent power into just a mass, you know, transformation. So it's going to take a lot of people's willingness. And this is where, you know, roundtables like this come in, and people creating platforms, people stepping into their mission, because everybody that steps into their mission becomes a great activator. And there's a lot of, you know, people that have missions that they haven't quite, you know, gotten in touch with enough. There's been a lot of targeting of star seeds. And so we just all have to just, you know, utilize these energies and connect with the higher octaves of them, because these are initiatory. They're initiating us into something huge. But the initiations have been hijacked for so long that every time we're about to take a leap, the carpet is pulled from underneath us. So we have to understand the way a parasite thinks, and how it attempts to keep itself alive, and how it requires certain conditions and a certain terrain in order to thrive. And we have to realize that, like, we have to become inhospitable to it by going against, you know, what they're seeking to target, and recognizing what those things are, and then counteracting it through taking even more of a leap forward in the vibration that they wish to shut down. So our voices, our authenticity, our ability to come together in unity consciousness. If we can focus on that more and more and more, we're like building the immune system on the planet, and the parasites will have nothing to feed on. We'll be starving, you know, this and not supplying it the life force it needs to even exist. So we have to take accountability to where we're enabling it to a certain degree, and each and every one of us has that work to do right now. And it's like breathing down our neck, and we don't have a whole lot of time, and I don't want to like create fear from saying that, but it's like it's the most important thing we can do right now, and choose words that encourage closeness and camaraderie instead of division, and so we have to constantly check ourselves. So this is probably the most critical year. Obviously, we all know that, but a lot of the incredible anger that is being, you know, I don't want to say the word trigger, but what's the things that are pulling out a lot of powerful anger needs to be in the higher vibration of passion and the fire of a warrior, because that's the alchemical substance that is going to, you know, shift everything. If we waste that energy on squabbling with each other, or getting locked into you know, what they're hoping to create, so that they can have the upper hand in the next wave or cycle. Because right now, with Wayfarers being exposed and Maxwell's arrest, this momentum can build. And this could be the exact thing we need for this deprogramming to be successful. But again, like the chess game, you know, the next thing that they're going to want to bring in is the second wave. But if everybody knows that the ones that are behind it are the greatest of criminals, it absolutely won't work, because there will be a huge revolt that is more on an organic level of human sovereignty than a manipulated movement that is funded by these criminals.
Carol, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, thank you, Nirvana. Yeah, there was a couple of things I'd like to just add to that, really. I've been really noticing how Facebook and Google and YouTube, especially Facebook, was really set up and designed to just, as part of the negative agenda, was designed and set up to really just gather our details, and to be like a huge filing system. And I do see a link there between starseeds in how we are tracked and traced by the positive and the negative before we get here. And the positive and the negative know who we are even before we do. And I'm really feeling that lately with Facebook, that this Facebook has been well planned, well instigated, well initiated, in order for this time at the moment that we're in on Earth, where they are attacking us negatively on a mass scale, really. On a mass scale, they're really targeting starseeds quite strongly, quite a lot on Facebook at the moment. So, and I'm really finding that. So that's to do with the voice and taking our voices away from us and taking our power away from us, and targeting us as well through not just Facebook, but also in the background with different technologies that they use to home in on our energy. And the other thing I wanted to say as well is that there will, when the COVID kicked off, I went into the garden and I connected to the Palladians again, and I really started to channel them again, because I hadn't for a while. And I think that was back in February, it really kicked off. And one of the things they said to me is that there will be mass sightings of UFOs worldwide that will not be seen on media or not be reported. And that has already started to happen now. And I think it's just going to increase and increase. I think I also believe there's going to be a genuine landing, because I think that with the ascension, I think we're actually going into a time where we are united we stand, and that includes our star nations, our brothers and sisters within the universe. So what happens on Earth is not contained to Earth. It vibrates out into the universe. So if we are, as I understand it, in a mass awakening of humanity that affects the whole universe, that includes our brothers and sisters, our star nations. So therefore, I see us evolving into not just humanity uniting, but all of us uniting. And in order to do that, it's going to become much more physical. We're going to be entering into a time where we're coexisting on Earth and different planets. Yeah. So we're entering into very different exciting times where we're really coexisting with each other on world and on Earth and in other places as well.
Yeah, as I always say, as above, so below, and as below, so above. And as we find the harmony here, we know that we can, expand that harmony. I would like to open the floor to anyone who would like to add something. Nadine. So I just want to also again introduce Nadine. She was one of the people on the round table on Friday, and she's also South African. She's my spirit mother, and we have journeyed together for nearly 20 years. And so, yeah, go ahead, Nadine.
Thank you to be in this group. What I've picked up, when you listen to a lot of people, within yourself, all the knowledge that you've gathered is jumping up, and each person will trigger
Speak a little bit louder, my angel.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. When you listen to other people, every single person will give you some kind of clue within yourself that you already knew. What I picked up here is that all of you have a global awareness. There are 3 types of awarenesses in people, and that is how when I listen to people and how they react on Facebook or wherever, the global aware people are usually starseeds because they see the whole planet. And I know that because if I get a comment from an American person, because I said something that is from America, it says, why do you say that? Because you're not even in that country. And I thought, but I'm a global citizen. I'm not, And then you have people who are tribal, and you have people who only look at their own family. And you'll find that people who are actually only in their own family are usually only look at their own little circle. So they're not actually interested in anything else. In tribal, they look more for community, and I usually recognize those stages that people are in their own development. And it's the global visionaries, and especially women. We are multitasking. We are very powerful, and that's all my input for all you ladies, because you are all global awareness. That is what you bring to the table, and that is why you're here. And that's what I strongly feel in all of you. And I'm very grateful to be just peeping into this little meeting, although it's probably a very big meeting. Lots of people will listen. Thank you, Nirvana.
Thank you, Nadine. Yes, Nina, love to hear from you.
Well, I just wanted to speak to the initiatory process a bit more. I really see that there's 2 very strong different types of initiations going on. The cabal or the negative ETs attempting to initiate humanity into a deeper sleep or slave state through the masking, through the vaccine possibilities, through the different, you have to walk this way, you can't walk that way, isolation. These are all, if you study Illuminati cabal, these are all extremely initiatory steps in these types of processes. But what I also see going on is creator source God's initiation of all light workers that are awakening and that are awakening in this ascension process. And as they are going through this, things, traumas from other lifetimes, traumas from this lifetimes, the pieces that they themselves were spiritually bypassing, they can't bypass anymore. But we need to see this not as victimization, but as a collective resurrection. And so what I've been really seeing in this is seeing it through the eyes of the Magdalene and the Christ. And I feel that so much Magdalene energy, the Magdalene Rose Ray is returning, is awakening. I've seen the Rose Magdalene Ray my whole life, but now, right now, I'm seeing it tremendously. And the Magdalens are awakening. The Magdalene Gaia energy is awakening. That Magdalene flame is so beautifully awakening through all of us, which is why the women have so much to share right now. And so a lot of the inner children in all of us, as we are finding out about these atrocities of the children, we have felt this our entire lives. Whether we were targeted through pedophilia, I was, many of us were, or we felt them. I used to see them in astral cages. I didn't know where they were. I didn't know who they were. I didn't realize that what I was seeing was my higher self saying, hey, this is why you came back to Earth. You came back for the children. We are also a part of those children. And it's triggering mass trauma in the collective. And it's also why a lot of people are choosing to remain in cognitive dissonance, because if they have to accept that these things are occurring, they also have to face their own trauma that they've never faced. So we really have to understand there's so many aspects to all of this going on. We have to have tremendous compassion and gentleness, and also just really take care of our own inner children through this, because they're really being triggered but they're being triggered for this awakening, for this resurrection, to go through this flame of transformation. And so as we walk across this coal, I see it, it's like a fire. As we walk through this fire together, we have to understand that we're not walking through this fire to be destroyed. It's not a death. It is a rebirth. And we are like becoming these diamonds that we've always been. But through this process, we're being purified. I very much see that our sexuality is being purified. Very much see that. As Gaia is rising in us, we are remembering who we are as sovereign. We are not martyrs. We are not victims. And none of this is happening to us. It is happening for us. And I can honestly say that this time has been one of the most incredible times of my life. And everything in my life that has ever happened to me that they ever sent at me to destroy me, Creator only used to make me stronger. And I know it's happening for every single person. So I just really felt I wanted to really share that.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I definitely can echo that in my journey of, having onslaughts on all different levels, and knowing that it only makes us stronger, and say, look, here we are still standing. I want to maybe take this opportunity and start wrapping it up. We're getting lots of influence and with all our technical challenges. I have a strong feeling maybe Mina do a closing sound. I feel pulled to ask if that's okay. If there's any last words, maybe like literally a minute last words from you, Carrie, or are we wrapped up?
I'm cool. Let's get Nina to do the thing.
All right. So thank you, Nina. If you could close us off, and thank you everybody for joining.
Oh, thank you for inviting me to share Nirvana, and thank you to everyone. So I am being inspired to share a light language code for the starseeds and angelics, and specifically what's coming through is the Magdalene energy in deliverance for the inner children and for all children. I'm also being called to share that the children are safe. And so as we're hearing about these atrocities that have occurred, understand that these children are safe. They have returned and they are safe. And we are returning, our inner children are returning to that divine womb of creation. We are awakening to that as we've always been there. Darashnia, Darasnia, Darashion, Darashin. Ya son Daratarashin. Darasia, Darashnia, Darasia. Darashnia, Darashin, Darashin. Shiasu.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, everybody that joined, and thank you for the beautiful beings, Tracy, Priscilla, and Stefan, for putting this conference together, for giving me the opportunity to step into my voice, for all of the beautiful sisters that have joined, supported, and for Nadine as well. Thank you so much for your support and your encouragement over the years. This is Authentically Me. I am Nirvana, and I say thank you very much. Have a beautiful day.